Okay, getting ready to make caramelized leek soup. There are a couple of versions of leek soup that I could have made. One was potato and the other is caramelized. I like the idea of the caramelized leeks, and then I also like the idea that it doesn't inherently include the potatoes. So it says 2 pounds of leeks, and I'm going to adjust based on the amount of leek I get out of here. You might notice it's a little wilty. Unfortunately, I bought it about a week ago. Butter. 3 tablespoons butter, 1 1/4 teaspoons sugar, 1/4 cup vermouth. I was going to substitute sake, and then I realized I actually do have vermouth, which is kind of unusual. It must be many, many moons old, and I think that some has been used, but not much. And great, I get to use it now. And then 3 1/2 cups chicken broth. I had beef broth, but again, lucky I don't have to substitute. I can make chicken broth from my chicken bouillon. Okay. So what I've read about cleaning leeks is that you have to be careful because dirt collects in these inside areas. So basically this part apparently is not going to be any good. We're going for the light green and the stems. And then I'm going to cut it off, slice it down, and then slice thinly crosswise. That's what I'm working on. Then we'll see how much I have. Okay, I see what they mean about the whole gathering dirt thing. That's pretty icky. So I'm going to do some serious washing in between and before I do the slicing and after I do the slicing. So this is what it looks like after I cut most of the tops off. And again, there's still a little bit of dirt showing, but I'm going to slice it and then rinse it again. Okay, this is what it looks like when sliced. Okay, so I'm trying to see how much I have in leeks, and I think I'm going to have to divide this recipe substantially. So far it's just 5 ounces. So I'm going to make it 6 ounces, 5.9. Good enough for me. So we're going to call that, let's see. It says we need 2 pounds, so we're going to call it 1/4 of the recipe, which is not very much. Alright, let me figure out how to adjust this. Okay, I've decided. I am going to make everything exactly as is, except for the butter. I'm going to have the butter, and I'm going to use just 1 cup of chicken broth. Maybe 1 1/2 cups, so let me think about that, because again, we're just doing it as a sampler. We don't really actually need to have this for the whole dinner. Wow, now while I'm here getting ready to serve, I'm reading the instructions, and it says that I take the leeks and I cook them with the butter on low heat, stirring occasionally until some begin to turn golden, about 40 minutes. Wow. I might have to adjust that part of the recipe. Okay, so there it is, 1 1/2 tablespoons of butter and 1/2 pound of leeks on a very, very low setting. And I thought it would be pretty simmering pretty fast already, but it looks like we might be okay. And it might take, who knows, it might take 40 minutes to get to golden brown. But I'm going to cover it, and then we will. So now I'm going to cover it, and we will stir it every 5 minutes. Okay, this is after 5 minutes, and nothing is golden brown yet, so that's good. So we're stirring it up a bit. I like it. It looks like it's the right amount of butter. Okay, I'll put it back on. Now we'll go for the 10-minute stirring. This is the 10-minute timer has gone off, and they're starting to show signs of being cooked, but I do not know if it's going to go till 40. It is half the amount or 1/4 of the amount, so perhaps it only needs to go to 15 or 20 minutes. I think at least 5 more minutes is warranted. Then we'll see. So this is the 15-minute mark, and I'm sort of wondering if I should let this go on anymore. Because I think if I were to look at it just from my personal experience perspective, I would say that it looks pretty done. Of course, I don't know. I've never done leeks before. I usually do onions, and they're done way before 15 minutes. So this is 15 minutes, and what shall we do? I think I'm gonna put just 2 or 3 more minutes. Again, it's a quarter of the amount of leeks that we're cooking here, so maybe that has something to do with it cooking faster. Okay, so I think this is definitely cooked. We don't want it any browner than this. Now it says add 1 1/4 teaspoons of sugar. But again, we're using less, so we're going to use 1 teaspoon of sugar. So I've added the sugar, and I'm just going to let it cook a little bit. It's still on low, and I'll stir it in a bit. Well, I'm making the executive chef's decision to add the vermouth, because this stuff is supposed to be golden brown, and it sure is looking kind of dark to me. So I'm accelerating the recipe. So the vermouth is going to go on, and then it's going to cook off. And then we add some of the broth. So I decided that since this is going to, we need to add ½ cup of bouillon to boil off, I just made an extra ½ cup because it's going to saute in the mix, the vermouth, leek, whatever, everything mixed for a while. So. And then we have 2 cups of broth to add later. And so this is just going to keep cooking, and then I'll transfer it to a more soup-like broth. I used the iron pan because they kept referring to a kettle, but I think this is as close as I could to a kettle in my house. So this is it after 5 minutes with the broth, and it sure is looking pretty dark. I have no idea if this is what it's supposed to look like. I'm going to have to go to my little Irish restaurant and get some leek soup. I've had it before, but I didn't really look at the texture or the quality. And this is a different recipe because it's caramelized onions, whereas the other one might be potato leek, which is another popular recipe. So I'm going to consider this pretty much done. I've poured 2 cups of broth into here, and I'm going to transfer all of this into my pot, and then I think it needs 10 or 15 minutes after this, but let me look at the recipe. Hey, this is reminding me of French onion soup. It doesn't look anything like the leek soup I'm used to, that I've had before, but it smells good, looks good, and hopefully it tastes good. So what do you think? Is it looking good? Good? There it is, leek soup. Oh, we'll have to add pepper and salt. And to go with it, Gruyere toast.